Okay, now, Chapter 14. Which world, your daily reality as the expression of specific probable events. Jane had no idea of what Chapter 14 would be about. I'm just waiting, she said. In fact, I haven't the slightest idea in my head about Seth or anything else. We continued to wait. It had begun to rain gently. Traffic seemed to hiss upon the pavement. We heard a television set sounding off in one of the downstairs apartments, though not loudly. Dictation, Chapter 14. Which you? Beneath that, which world? Continuing with the heading, your daily reality as the expression of specific probable events. That is all the heading. The brain can be called simply the physical counterpart of the mind. By means of the brain, the functions of the soul and intellect are connected with the body. Through the characteristics of the brain, events that are of non-physical origin become physically valid. There is a definite filtering and focusing effect at work then. Practically speaking, you do indeed form the appearance that reality takes through your conscious beliefs. Those beliefs are used as screening and directing agents, separating certain non-physical probable events from others and bringing them into three-dimensional actuality. Other probable events could just as well become physically experienced ones. Those beliefs about yourself form your own self-image and define your concepts of what is possible or not possible for you. You will choose from those non-physical probable events, therefore, only those you feel you are in accord with. Because of your psychological and psychic structure, there is within the rich makeup of your being a literally endless variety of what you may call probable selves. In one reality or another, these will all be experienced. In your present existence, however, you will utilize only those psychological characteristics that you believe you possess. So you see, the personality cannot be defined as being thus and so. The physical constitution of the body follows your beliefs, and so all of its sense data will faithfully mirror the beliefs that direct its activities. In certain terms, hypnosis is simply an exercise in the alteration of beliefs, and only too clearly shows that sense experience follows expectations. The you that you presently conceive yourself to be represents the emergence into physical experience of but one probable state of your being, who then directs corporal life and frames and defines all sense data. When your ideas about yourself change, so does your experience. Even the intimate body experience alters. You may say that you are you, but which you are you? In the most personal terms, each individual creates his own world. The biological equipment of your creaturehood directs your mass experience enough so that agreement is reached, but only along certain general lines. The overall private experience that you perceive forms your world, period. But which world do you inhabit? For if you altered your beliefs and therefore your private sensations of reality, then that world, seemingly the only one, would also change. You do go through transformations of beliefs all the time, and your perception of the world is different. You seem to be no longer the person that you were. You are quite correct. You are not the person that you were, and your world has changed, and not just symbolically. Often you fall into lapses in which you actually pull in your consciousness, so to speak, and experience life in a lesser fashion. In such a state, you do not seem to experience yourself directly, and indeed, in the midst of what you think of as the waking state, you act in the most mechanical of fashions, following habit and being, less aware of sensual stimuli. On such occasions, okay, a dog has come in that wants me to feed him, and I will do that. There you go. Okay. That was Arnold come in after a walk into the park, and out when he comes in he's always hungry, and he comes to my room because he knows I have goodies in here. Okay, back to the reading. On such occasions, your beliefs usually lose their edge. The directions you give to your body are not clear, and the world seems fuzzy. This is often a time of deep unconscious activity, when no new latent probable characteristics are bidding their time, so to speak, waiting for emergence. In your terms, probable events are brought into actuality by utilizing the body's nervous system through certain intensities of will or conscious belief. These beliefs obviously have another reality beside the one with which you are familiar. They attract and bring into being certain events instead of others. Therefore, they determine the entry of experienced events from an endless variety of probable ones. You seem to be at the center of your world because, for you, your world begins with that point of intersection where soul and physical consciousness meet. In surface terms, the sense of I that you possess is the result of constantly emerging probable identities, given continuity in time through the physical apparatus of the body with its built-in intervals of nerve reaction. You only remember the portion of your identity that is physically realized, those portions that are drawn into corporal pattern. This is the result of the focusing and yet limiting behavior of the physical brain. For effective survival behavior in your reality depends upon time reactions. The nerve patterns activity therefore cause the illusion of a present in which your consciousness appears focused and alert. In certain terms, future events exist now, but they are too fast. They jump over the nerve endings too quickly, and physically you cannot perceive or experience them as yet. Impulses possess a far different reality than physicists or biologists suppose. As you think now, past is still occurring. The drag still leaps the synapses, but again, is not physically recorded. Past events continue. Consciously, you only experience portions of events with your corporal structure, yet the structure itself records them. In such a way, the cells retain their memory, though you do not perceive it, and the body is aware of so-called future occurrences, though as a rule, you do not consciously sense this. At other levels of psychic activity, however, such knowledge is also available to you, but only when you disconnect your experience from the time-activated neuronal structure. And this you can do through various alterations of consciousness, often quite spontaneously adopted. Many such states can give you a far greater direct experience with the nature of your non-corporal reality than any normally conscious questioning. Which you, which world? You can, to some extent, discover for yourself the other probable yous that are a portion of your being. Future events are also your selection of probable ones, however, and many occurrences in which you are involved speed past you too quickly for your neuronal structure. These are not served up to you as your present. They represent your experience on other than physical levels. My dear friend Rupert has, to some extent, given an analogy of this in the first Oversoul 7 book, a novel. You perceive a certain event as present. Your beliefs give it entry through the nerve synapses and attract it. It then seems to become the past. You have only tuned into a portion of it physically, though. That past event continues to exist with its own future, which you may or may not perceive according to which probable action you pull into your next experience of actuality. The past does have its own past, present, and future, therefore. From a given past event, you will only materialize a particular future. But the event itself continues and possesses a dimensionality of its own, or rather a multi-dimensionality, that you also possess. You can dip into cellular memory, for example. Using memory, you follow but one recognized sequence of remembered events backward. There are elements in your past that are as unpredictable, however, as the elements in your future now appear to be. There is creativity in your past waiting for you, even as there is in your future. But to utilize such experiences, you must learn to alter your beliefs and to some degree escape from the particular kind of limited conscious focus that you habitually use. The physical structure itself contains within it the necessary prerequisites for what you would call evolutions of consciousness, and even for, with certain limits, the organization of experience in ways that might seem quite alien to you now. Sense data can be organized in different fashions. Mechanisms and pathways exist, making it quite possible for you to see, sound, or hear color, although that is not your primary habit at this time. In certain terms, time intervals are jumped, as when a past smell or sight is suddenly perceived with present vividness, though you would say it has already occurred in the past. Under particular conditions, a memory may suddenly become more real than the event of the present moment, and so rush again into your current experience as validly as when it was first lived, and even seem to blot out the occurrences of the moment. This could not happen if your physical structure did not have a built-in mechanisms allowing it to, and if under certain conditions the normal intervals between the synapses of the nerve cells could not be leaped in a different fashion. In the same way, a future experience may also be physically perceived in your present. Now, beneath your usual consciousness, your physical organism can react to future events without your knowledge, as it can to past ones. In such cases, the intensity of the initially non-physical event is enough to break through normal neuronal patterns. If you are aware of such a future episode, you will be forced to react to it as a conscious being. In any case, your temporal structure will respond whether or not you are aware of the reasons for such behavior. The future incident may then occur in its time sequence, and you recognize it through memory, in which case your reactions in that future present will be altered because of the seemingly past memory. In your terms, that event may never come to pass, however, because it may be arising from a probable past that was once your present, but from which you have diverged. This is one of the reasons why psychics' predictions often do not seem to bear out, for at every point you do indeed have the free will through your beliefs to alter your experience. Your beliefs form the pivot of your present experience. Okay, I'm going to skip down to session 654. In your terms, practically speaking, probable events seem to make more sense when you think of them as latent future ones. The fact remains that there are probable past events that can still happen within your personal previous experience. A new event can literally be born in the past, now. On a grand scale, this rarely occurs in such a way that you perceive it, and you had better underline that whole last part. A new belief in the present, however, can cause changes in the past on a neuronal level. You must understand that basically time is simultaneous. Present beliefs can indeed alter the past. In some cases of healing, in the spontaneous disappearance of cancer, for instance, or of any other disease, certain alterations are made that affect cellular memory, genetic codes, or neuronal patterns in the past. In such instances, there is, as easily as I can explain it, a reaching into deep biological structures as they existed at one time. At that point, the probabilities are altered and the condition erased in your present, but also in your past. A sudden or intense belief in health can indeed reverse a disease, but in a very practical way, it is a reversal in terms of time. New memories are inserted in place of the old ones as far as cells are concerned under such conditions. This kind of therapy happens quite frequently on a spontaneous basis when people rid themselves of diseases they did not even know they possess. Learning is not simply passed on from living tissue to living tissue. This your biologists have discovered. But it is also passed on through the body's present corporal reality, sometimes entirely changing the messages to past cells that in your terms no longer exist. In somewhat the same way, a strong belief in a particular ability generated in the present will reach into the past and affect whatever changes would have had to occur there in order to now make the ability apparent. This is the reason for the results of some experiments being conducted abroad, in which accelerated learning takes place, when under hypnosis or otherwise a present individual is convinced that he or she is, for example, a great painter or a linguist. The present belief activates latent abilities within each person. The biological structure as it existed in the past is therefore affected. Experience is built into the organism that it did not have before, in your terms. It is a sort of reprogramming. It is impossible, of course, for you to examine cellular structure now as it exists in the present and simultaneously as it existed in the past. Scientifically, you can only probe those effects that appear within your present. When you alter your beliefs today, you also reprogram your past. As far as you are concerned, the present is your point of action, focus, and power, and from that point of volition, you form both your future and past. Realizing this, you will understand that you are not at the mercy of a past over which you have no control. While your present conscious beliefs dictate your current experience, and while your physical body wears its solidity only in present time to your senses, beneath this, both the ever-changing elements of your body and your consciousness are relatively free in time. They exist in a multidimensionality with which rational consciousness is not yet equipped to deal. This is not meant to dilute the function or natural abilities of reasoning awareness, for its powers allow you to focus experience in a highly specific manner, and to direct energy with great purposeful attention. In your terms, this action is in the process of automatically changing the nature of rational consciousness, which is, as you think of it, in a state of evolution. Your consciousness is not a thing that you possess. Your individuality is not a thing which limits. If you ask, what is my individuality in all of this, or which I am I, then you are automatically thinking of yourself as a psychological entity with definite boundaries that must be protected at all cost. You may say, I was born in a house on a certain street in a certain town, and no present belief to the contrary will change that fact. If in the present one past event can be altered within your neuronal structure, however, then basically no event is safe from such change. In your practical experience, tables remain tables, although physicists well know that physical appearance is in some way a mirage. At your level of experience, many effects are accepted and used quite practically, as are your solid tables. You do not perceive the atoms or molecules that compose them. So in the same way, but in a different manner of speaking, events seem solid as tables do. Yet at other levels, this seeming solidity of events also breaks down. Which you, which world? A sudden contemporary belief in illness will actually reach back into the past, affecting the organism at that level, and inserting into the past experience of the cells the initiation of those biological events that will then seem to give birth to a present disease. In the current pivoting of its experience, therefore, your conscious mind directs not only the present, but future and past experience of deep neurological events. Cellular memory may be changed at any point. Present beliefs can insert into the past new memory, both psychologically and physically. The future is in no way predetermined on basic levels. This does not mean that the future cannot be predicted sometimes, for in practical terms you will often continue with certain lines of probability which can be seen ahead of time. Such predictions can affect the probabilities, of course, and reinforce a present line of belief. Physicians often wonder whether they should tell terminal patients of their impending deaths. There is great controversy. In some cases, such a prediction can make death a fact, while its opposite can regenerate the patient's belief in his or her own ability to live. No man will die simply because a physician tells him he is going to, however. No one is so at the mercy of another's belief. Each individual, generally speaking, knows his challenges and overall programs and the time of his death. But even such decisions can be altered at any time in your now. The entire body can be regenerated in a way that would be impossible to predict in usual medical terms. You rule your experiences from the focal point of your present, where your beliefs directly intercept with the body and the physical world on the one hand, and the invisible world from which you draw your energy and strength on the other. This applies to individuals, societies, races, and nations, and to sociological, biological, and psychic activities. In daily practical experience, try to concentrate for a while upon seemingly subordinate abilities, ones that you think of as latent. If you do so consistently, using your imagination and will, then those abilities will become prominent in your present. The current beliefs will reprogram and alter past experience. It is not simply that past, forgotten, unconsciously perceived events will be put together in a new way and organized under a new heading, but that in the past, now not perceivable, the entire bodily response to seemingly past events will change. Your desire or belief will literally be reaching back into time, teaching the nerves new tricks. Definite reorganizations in that past will occur in your present, allowing you to behave in entirely new fashions. Learned behavior therefore alters not only present and future, but also past conduct. Your power as a rational consciousness focused in the present provides you with opportunities for creativity that you are but vaguely learning to understand. As you do learn, you will automatically begin to appreciate the multidimensional nature of not only your own species, but of others as well. The moment you think of it, then, is the creative framework through which you, the non-physical self, constantly form corporal reality, and through that window into earthly existence, you form both its future and its past. In purely physical terms, what you think of as consciousness of the self arises from a certain peak of intensity reached by the just state consciousness of the atoms and molecules and cells and organs that compose the body. The peculiarly physical-oriented self that you know has its reality in that context, but even in physical terms, its reality is more than any analysis of its entirety would show. It then directs the activity of the body and is to that extent dependent upon neurological activity. The psychic structure of consciousness that organizes that bodily gestate is, however, not dependent upon it, and so the you that you experience is only a portion of this greater identity. During certain stages in sleep states, you short-circuit the neurological structures and perceive experiences of a multidimensional nature that you then attempt to translate as best you can into stimuli that can be physically assimilated. Hence, you often convert these into symbolic images that can be understood and to some extent reacted to by your bodily structure. Many times such constructions are used as inner visual patterns. For example, visually they often bear a similarity to the inner architecture of the cells and to planets. Your dream images are biologically structured then. The experiences behind them bring you in contact with the deepest portions of your non-physical reality, and it is the unconscious who translates these for you into recognizable images and forms. In the same way, your unconscious also transforms for you from an otherwise undifferentiated maze of reality, fields of activation into recognizable objects and events in your daily life. You are now rooted in your creaturehood, graced to perceive through your body a unique living experience. So when I mention techniques that will allow you to perceive other fields of reality besides your own, I want you to realize that these should be used to enhance your enjoyment of that creaturehood and to enrich your sensual as well as spiritual expression. In the brilliance of your physical being, both are entwined. End of dictation. And I will end this session and start at 6:55 session next video. This is the Dove Lady, over and out for now.